A little better? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you look beautiful.
Okay.
We're live. Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever the hell you are in the world, and welcome to SciTrek, your sci-fi TV and movie channel. It's just me and Harris.
You know, just hanging out.
This day. So my children hate me. So they're just leaving me alone for now. And Harris hasn't got any children that we know about.
Not that I know about yet either. Fingers crossed. Don't need any more expenses at the moment.
One day soon. But we're going to be talking Stargate Universe, and we're going to put this damn argument to bed if it kills us or kills everyone else. We don't care.
Let's do it.
But let's do it. It was boring. It just was. I tried to like it. I really tried to like it. But I'm gonna put a caveat on this though, right? I am only comparing Stargate Universe to SG-1 and Stargate Atlantis, right? Because if we compare it to all of the other sci-fi, my argument changes dramatically. Right? Because compared to most of the other sci-fi, it's way better. Right? But compared to SG-1 and SG Atlantis, it wasn't good enough. But you've watched it recently.
Yes.
So what do you think?
I think where it could be arguable as it is boring in places. I think it's much more of your and I don't mean this in a bad way. Howdy, David. It's I don't like saying the word generic, but it's a generic slow burn. It's not a generic sci-fi series or anything. It has generic qualities to aspects of it, but I feel like it is started slow, ended great. It was just a slow burn, you know? And that's why it starts a little slow. It takes a second to pick up, and by the end you're like, why are we stopping it? Why are we putting people in stasis?
I will argue. I will argue. Like I've always said, like definitely the first season of Star Trek: The Next Generation wasn't right, but they fixed it. So by the end of the season, all of a sudden, Geordie LaForge got a load of engineering qualifications from nowhere, and they made him chief engineer. He was the pilot, made him chief engineer. That is a curve, a learning curve. Like, I mean, wow, he just got promoted like woo. And they moved on to other things. Sorry.
They replaced the pilot, right?
They kind of never really had another like regular pilot. They just sort of had people sitting there going boop, 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 boop. And then, but there was always, they were never in Star Trek. They were never that like focused on data. Would be sat in the and he was supposed to be.
It could be anybody. Okay.
Take over sometimes. But yeah. So but they rejigged it and it made it work. I think they did similar for SGU. And let's say we'll put to bed first of all why it got cancelled. It got cancelled not because it was rubbish or because no one was watching it. That's just not true. And anybody that says that's why it got cancelled, it's just not right. It got cancelled because MGM went under and the show was becoming too expensive to make, basically, just for sci-fi on their own. And that is why it got cancelled. The numbers actually weren't terrible. They were not up there with SGU or SG Atlantis even. Actually, they're about the same as SG Atlantis towards the end. Okay. So that's why it got cancelled. It was simply money. All right.
Because not only it was MGM, but Sci-Fi was rebranding, and there were it was the perfect storm, I think, as we called it a couple of times, right?
Yeah, and I think there was just no one else willing to pick it up. So I think, but honestly, the main thing was MGM was genuinely didn't know it was going to exist within the next 12 months. That's how bad it was. I mean, MGM basically then, after SGU got cancelled, limped along for the next 10 years, really owned by its creditors, which is never a good position to be in.
No.
Sold a bunch of stuff off, and then Amazon came along. But it limped along, focusing on things like it's focused on its big brands. Just about managed to get a couple of Bond movies out, and it did a lot of reality TV, and it just about got by. But anyway.
Yeah. Legally Blonde 3 was the thing that really put it under, right?
Oh no, that's what's going to get it back on top, maybe.
Exactly, it's going to bring it right back.
I can't wait to do our review on that. I mean, that's going to be a whole week of videos for us.
Of course,
Legally Blonde
it's
3.
completely
Can't wait. I
necessary.
mean, we have to do a watch along of Legally Blonde 1 and 2. And then we have to
In-depth breakdowns of each, of course. In-depth analyses.
and each character and everything. And we have to really get stuck into the legal system, because the second one's much. No, first one's about legal system. Second, I've watched these films. That's really embarrassing. First one's about legal system. Second one's about wanting to get into the Senate or something. I have daughters, though. So that's my
Really?
Yeah. She goes to like the Senate or the other one. I forget. But yeah, she gets into the legal system.
Yeah, I get that confused with Beverly Hills Chihuahua after the first one.
I don't think I've seen Beverly Hills Chihuahua, but we're going off topic.
Exactly. But we should do that with maybe not super in depth necessarily as much as we feel like it, but with Stargate Universe whatever we get back.
Well, let's get into just first of all, was it any good? That's today's question. So before we get into that, I did put a rate SGU question on the community page yesterday, and I will ask people basically rate it from 1 to 5. Up there as the best as 1, and 5 it was bloody awful. So we've had 1.4 thousand votes, so 1,400 votes. Not bad.
Not shabby at all.
I'm gonna ask you guys to guess, or I'll ask you, House, guess how many people said that it's up there with the best.
And you're saying 1 is best and 5 is worst?
Best.
Okay.
Roughly what percentage of people do you think said it was the best?
I'm going to go with 14 to 18%.
Ooh,
and then
you're underselling your.
But then the second best, I think, is it like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 option or what?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Well, then number 2, I'm guessing like 20, 25%, maybe 30%.
No.
Is it the opposite?
I'm bored by this channel. I'm by this channel. I'm bored by. Actually, I did get a comment days ago going, "God, this channel's boring."
Edit that out. We're clipping it.
Yeah. Don't clip that, for the love of God. 33% of people said it's up there with the best. 34% of people just said it was good. 22% of people said it was okay. 8% of people said not the best, and only 4% of people said it was awful. Out of 1,400 votes, so that ain't bad.
I was lowballing it big time.
Yeah, man, you should have a little bit more confidence in the show that you've recently watched and loved so much. Damn it!
I just thought it would be like 1, 2, 3 would be like 20, 40, 60, or 60, 70, 80% altogether or something, and then the next 2 would be like filling it out a little bit more. But I like those numbers. Those numbers make me happy.
Yes, they make you happy. You just jumped out the shower, so you're going to get clean and happy. We did say if we started this video 10 minutes earlier, I know somebody that is normally in the comments that would have been very happy. But,
I would not have been.
My main problem with the whole series, it was. Have you actually seen the rebooted version of Battlestar Galactica?
I haven't seen either.
Right, you must watch the at least the miniseries. That's the best bit. It wanders a bit when it gets into the series, but the miniseries they did.
That's Edward James Olmos and Katie Sackhoff, right?
Yes. Some of the best sci-fi ever made. I always felt that SGU was that Brad Wright and everybody that was involved saw Battlestar Galactica and thought, that's bloody marvelous. That is. Let's do that. And it felt very much like in style. Not obviously in story and etc., but in style, it felt like Battlestar Galactica, and it was noticeable, sort of thing. Shaky camera shots, no noise in space. You have these silent almost shots where the shuttles are flying by and things. I found that it was just such a change in style and tone that it felt
typical Stargate.
Hey, Eli. There was some scary moments when I talk about Chloe in a second.
Great.
The British accent is cute. It's because I'm British. So
see,
cups of tea and there's rum. There's a lot of rum in this. There's way too
much. There's a lot of rum.
It was the bottom of the bottle, and I just thought that would only leave a piddly little. I mean, but it was up to there.
What rum do y'all drink over across the pond?
This is a spiced rum.
Ah.
This is one that they sell in Aldi. It's won a bunch of awards, but I can't remember what it's called. Right. Shaky Cam on the gold cargo ship going through hyperspace showed how they went too far with that silliness. Yeah. True.
But it played so well into the series as well, because Eli didn't need something to do. He was the math boy. He could have been doing engineering stuff the entire time, but it gave him a hobby that made him more of an individual and a realized full like person. And he in turn made every other character on the show fully realized and felt more like an individual person, and not so much just okay, well, we're going to need this person in 2 episodes to kill off here, and we're going to need this person in 5 episodes to kill off here, so we don't have to hurt our main cast. It made each one of them more individualistic. I would still probably put SGU as my least favorite of the 3. I really do like it, but it character development wise, in 2 seasons, did what the other shows couldn't do in 5 or 10 because of the way that they handled that shaky cam. So I don't necessarily see it as like the best thing ever, but it served its purpose and served its purpose very well.
Is it one of those things with the change of tone? And I think anybody would argue, I don't think anybody can argue, that it wasn't a massive change in tone between the first 2 that are very similar in tone and style, and then SGU. Very, very different. But after 2 shows, did they have to do it? Did they have to do something different? And is it one of those things that they were damned if they did and damned if they didn't?
Damned if they do, damned if they don't. But I think what's our guy say? You know, what's Brad Wright say? He said they had to do something different. And if we're all in the mindset of trust Brad, I trust Brad. I think he knew that they couldn't do another copycat show. And it's not that Stargate Atlantis was a copycat show, but if they were going to do something in like totally the same vein, it would have been a copycat show. Where Atlantis had enough differentiation. Third time's not a charm in that way. Third time's a charm to get you like fully canceled, and that still happened here. And part of that might have been because that what we talked about, like aesthetically wise, it doesn't feel Stargate for the most part. The actual formula and the things they're doing is very Stargate. It is different than the way they typically do it from like a base type thing, but it is very much still Stargate. So I don't know if it was too copycat in that sense, which still got it canceled, or it was obviously the whole fiasco of behind the scenes.
I mean, you got very much into the basics of go through gate, visit worlds that look an awful lot like either a sand quarry or Montana, or Northwest California or something, and British Columbia. Do whatever you got to do and then move on. But I mean, I think Stargate Universe had the overarching storyline far more than SGU and SGA did. Obviously, both of those stories did have an enemy that was like, the Wraith and SGA and other storylines that did sort of hold everything together. But SGU was a little bit more in your face for me. But the problem for me was that the overarching storyline was, can we stay alive? And that was boring. It was sort of like, oh, we need to get some water. Okay, fine, go get some water. Market's open down the road, just go get some from there. It was, what I mean? It was like there was a whole episode about having to power it because it was solar powered, so it had to get so close to the star. And it was just one of these things that it was procedural.
Yes, but not procedural in like because SG1 and SGA are very procedural as well, but they're procedural in like they could turn into. I mean, we're typically doing the same military type unit tactics every single time, yada yada, and it turns into a military or a law show or a doctor show, depending on what's going on at the time, and it still feels kind of procedural in that way, where SGU is just procedural in their approach, I guess, generally. But I'd argue that that's good procedural sci-fi compared to like SG1 and SGA, where it feels like different elements of different genres are being imbued inside of SG1, which is one of the reasons it's so great. And same thing with SGA is it anybody that likes any type of show will like at least an episode or 3 or 4 or 5 of those shows, where they might not for SGU because it's very consistent within all itself, but it's procedural nonetheless. But I think it's that slow burn procedural sci-fi, and it's the thing that kind of pushes it along. And I think comparison is what kills it. It's just because the first 2 are so fun. And this one is where it does get boring with like, okay, we have to do this to survive, so we have to go this way. We have to do this to survive, so it has to go that way. It's the only series with stakes. The only time really there are stakes besides that is maybe when the Ori come in. And I can't really think of that besides Atlantis, maybe having to move planets the once and then come back to Earth. But it felt... Where SG1 and SGA are very like real in a lot of ways, it feels like, oh, this kind of could be happening maybe. Like, this is fun. SGU's like, hey, once you get all this stuff, this is what it would be like. And I think it added realism to where they were going and where they had come from, which was nice.
I think there was an added realism to the thing, and there was and the tension they brought into the situation, constantly being attacked, the stress of like.
And you can't trust your own crewmates.
Yeah,
you have not only there's like not only just I guess citizens and military, which is what it's typically kind of aligned as, but there's a clear science part too. Like not only is Rush kind of in his own camp, but Eli's kind of in Rush's camp. Chloe kind of ends up in Rush's camp, and there's kind of that third camp that's part of the citizens, works alongside the military, and it's them that are almost playing both sides. But both sides really should be listening to the scientists to survive anyway right now. They all know that, but they don't want to give up their kind of they don't want to give up their individuality and their control over their own like autonomy on the ship in a way. And I don't blame them, but you got to survive.
Let's talk about the characters, the actors, because I mean we had some brilliant acting in this. I mean, I've forgotten the guy's name. I should have written his name. The guy that played Colonel Young in this.
Louis Ferreira,
thank you. How did I forget that? Because it always reminds me of the guy that played the Hulk originally. It was something Ferreira. Whenever I see his name, I was like, the Hulk.
Rigno too.
Yeah, it's the Hulk's in this one. But yeah, Louis Ferreira. I mean, he is a brilliant actor. I loved him actually in SWAT. He played a drunk in SWAT. And he was great in that as well. He is a genuinely good actor. Obviously,
he's in Breaking Bad.
He was in Breaking Bad. Obviously, we've got Rush, who's British, so of course he's a good actor. I would even say Eli. And we were talking before we started the stream about Lou Diamond Phillips, who is a brilliant actor, and who played Telford, who was always my favorite character because that's where I'm from.
I could chant LVP for the next 20 minutes if you want to just do that for stream. I'd be perfectly fine with that.
Go. No. But Lou Diamond Phillips is one of the most underrated actors. I always think he's
totally.
I mean, but you know he's a popular actor because he's in everything. But yeah, he's Camille.
Ming Na Wen when she was still just going by Ming Na, you know.
Ooh, love Ming Na.
Perfect actress for it. And y'all said she wasn't in there that much. She was like 3 or 4 episodes less. And she's not like as pivotal all the time, but she hits hard every time she comes on screen.
She was pretty pivotal early on, but her character got pushed back, I think, a little bit. But then we've become used to Ming Na Wen in Mandalorian, in Book of Boba Fett, and more in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when she actually just played this kick-ass character. She's not that in this. She's a politician more character. She's, I think so. Yeah, they didn't use her as well as they could have done.
She did well with it nonetheless, honestly, because I'm used to her and all those badass kind of characters. She's Mulan, like that's what you kind of expect, but
yeah.
I liked it.
Robert Carlyle is British because as soon as you're good at something, you stop being Scottish, you start being British. If he was a crap actor, he'd be Scottish again. That's how it works in this country. The guy that won the tennis, I don't really know tennis. I forget his name. He won Wimbledon for us.
Federer?
No, the British guy. He was
Oh,
Scottish right up until he won Wimbledon, and then he became British, and we all started supporting him. That's how it works, my son. That's how it works, my friend.
It makes sense.
Yeah. But Robert Carlyle is a great actor. So the acting I liked though the most, and it was a character that I really enjoyed, was the guy that Greer.
Yeah.
Absolute freaking nutter. And
completely. Okay, I started out the show really not liking Greer and really not liking Colonel Young. I ended the show loving both of them, but like I didn't cringe when they were on screen. That's not the right word. It's more like every time I saw Louis Ferreira on screen, because he was a great actor, I just really didn't like that character and his decision making. And I was just every time I was like, oh God, he's gonna do something dumb. He's gonna do something that's gonna piss me off. Oh God, he's gonna hurt the crew. Whatever is gonna happen. It wasn't cringe. I was more, like don't do something dumb. Like we're trying to survive here. We want the SGU folk to live, but I don't think his goal was to live most of the time.
I was always hoping that Greer would kill everyone in their sleep.
At the same time, yeah, Greer started off that way, and by the end, I felt like, they didn't really push his story as much, but they did it in the background in like the most perfect of ways. Where him and Dr. Park are together. Now Dr. Park's blind, so there's a whole different thing that they could be working on there. There were so many things that could have been a season 3, 4, 5 that would have been great.
I think BK here makes an interesting point. He says you were uncomfortable by the characters, and that was the point.
Exactly.
And I argue that it was supposed to feel claustrophobic. It was supposed to feel dark and limited and a little. It was a show that was supposed to make you feel uncomfortable, opposed to Stargate, SG1, and SGA, which were big and open,
happy-go-lucky,
bright and interest. So yeah, again, maybe that was the problem. Do you think? So no, let's talk about the characters a little bit more then. So it was something's happened. No, we're back. No, it was something again. Was there actors? Were there too many main characters?
No, because of one of the comments that we just got is Adam Brody was the best character. He would have fit in any of the other Stargate shows, and I think that's why Adam Brody is not one of the first 9 people in the cast. He's in the first maybe 16, 17, 18 people in the cast, but I think I could name more. Part of it's because it's more fresh and I just watched this, but I think I could name more Stargate Universe characters than I could in either of the other shows. And I feel like the same might be for a lot of people generally.
There were a lot more main characters because they had nowhere to go. Other characters, SG1, SG8, they could come and go a little bit. SGA less, but they could come and go a little bit. But my point is like what Bob said here. Chloe was a walking bag of passive-aggressive disaster area. Most of the female characters are too stereotypical. Now, I think that might have been a thing of the time or whatever. Maybe, maybe that's true a little bit. TJ was a passive-aggressive bag of a disaster area as well. I hated the TJ character. The whole thing between her and Young irritated me. I thought it was boring and it went on way too long. But Chloe was boring, whiny character that she did my head in. I was like, what are you going to complain about now, Chloe? And she was not. Oh, my dad died. So what? Get on with it. It's just like, honestly, she irritated me so much that I have to try to delete her from my brain.
Well, okay. Season 1, I can see that. Elise Levesque. She's a great actress. If you haven't seen Ready or Not, that's good.
Yeah, it is good.
I can see that for season 1, but I feel like that was necessary for where she went in season 2 because I thought she was a lot better in season 2. Where she is kind of like relegated to the side for parts of times. She is one of the main and pivotal characters for like the events going on. Every time anything big happens, she's right there, either alongside a bunch of aliens or she's helping the math and science next to Eli and Rush. I guess she's not your typical TV character. And that's this. Remember, we were talking about how like SGU was kind of the bridge of where TV changed a lot.
Yeah.
And Game of Thrones came out after.
It was ever so slightly a little bit before its time, SGU.
Yeah, I think it was
slightly missed.
It was the breaking point for TV in a good way. It was like, we got to stop doing what we've been doing since the 60s and let's do something different. And the whole TV landscape's changed in tone and the way everything looks on TV. We're used to more like 6 to 12 TV episodes instead of 12 to 24. And just the way we look at things have changed since literally SGU, which is cool. Because it was the last like 20 episode show that I can really think of that had like even a darker tone like that, you know, more mature tone.
Yeah.
On linear, well, what does linear TV look like since SGU left? Literally, linear TV has gotten shite since more and more every year.
In the UK, Sky reshown it, and it's back to get its own channel on Freevee. So
the better question there would be to ask how well it's done on streaming since it left, honestly, because that was around Netflix time and Hulu time and a couple others.
Do you think that if this show had been just a couple of years later, even if it got cancelled by MGM, that this would have been the perfect sort of show that Netflix would have picked up? But it was maybe just a little bit early for that.
Completely. Because like literally I only watched this show on Netflix because of Katie Sackhoff and a couple. I do like a couple of the ancillary cast members. Did you watch Another Life on Netflix when it came out?
I tried because Katie Sackhoff was in it.
Awful. It was bad. Yeah. I liked the concepts, and then I like Katie Sackhoff.
I think I watched 2 episodes, and then once the whole it being Katie Sackhoff thing. I'm such a misogynist. I'm terrible. I'm like, oh, pretty lady. And as soon as that sort of stopped being fun, I stopped watching it.
I just adore the actress. And I like the guy that played her husband as well. So I was like,
yeah,
I'm doing it. I watched a season. I got to finish it. This was my mindset there. Was it worth finishing? Probably not. But
I used to be like that, mate. And something good might happen. I must watch this to the end. And now I'm a bit more seasoned. I'm like, this is crap. I'm not watching it anymore. And my life I haven't got enough hours in the day for this nonsense. And I just I used to push through with things, but now I've got kids and a wife.
I'm too OCD for that. I'm like, I just gotta finish.
Yeah.
But that's arguably SGU 2.0 in a lot of ways, because it's not necessarily like, okay, well, we got these guys, and I guess if SGU came back, they could totally take a couple of elements from that series and use them already better than that series could ever have presented them. Not could have ever presented them, but the way they did present them. Just the people in Cryo, maybe we get to, if we get a movie for Stargate and they actually do get to the Destiny at a certain point, maybe you can't bring everybody back. So, and that's a good way to wait till like all your actors have their schedules cleared out as well. It's like, okay, maybe we can only bring like 3 or 4 people back. And maybe it's not your main guys. Maybe Colonel Young, maybe a couple of the individuals from the Citizens kind of aspect of things gets released first. And they're like, yeah, we're not taking Young out yet. Leave him in there, you know?
That's one way of bringing out, of having the issue of like thing. I want to come back to that, if that's all right.
Yeah.
So we're gonna end the chat and we'll think about how could we bring it back and what we do. And I've got an idea that's going to be incredibly unpopular. So let's go on chat about that in a minute. Some of the storylines, I always say that the first season was pretty forgettable. Was it the first season with the drones, with the Berserker drones? Or was that the second season?
No, that's the second season.
Right. So this thing. It's been a few years since I've watched it, so you've got to forgive me. What actually happened in the first season? The Lucian Alliance stuff was the second season as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The Lucian Alliance stuff was great. I really enjoyed those few episodes. And the attack on Earth, I thought was fun. I thought it was good I liked how how Telford was sort of turned and they used the mind control technology.
That was cool.
I really liked how that got caught up. I really loved the guy that played Varro. I thought he's good. I've seen him in a few things. He's really cool.
He was in both SG1 and SGA, right?
I believe it was, yeah. But he's been in loads of sci-fi over the years. He plays military guys a lot and things like that.
Yeah, he was always a
Kiva,
bounty.
yeah, Rhoda Mitra, who played Kiva, who's one of my favorite actresses. She's a great British actress. She got famous because she, when the first, I told you earlier, what was it called? Tomb Raider movies came out.
Yeah. She was Lara Croft. Huh?
Yeah, they hired actresses to play Lara Croft for like, you know, photo shoots and advertisements and things. And that's actually how she became famous. But then she was in things like Boston Legal. She did that movie, the reboot of the werewolf movie with the vampires.
Underworld stuff or no?
Underworld. So they did Underworld Awakening. I think it might be a reboot anyway. So it was a prequel. Brilliant. It actually showed how the war started, sort of thing in that. So, and she played the that's Lucian as well. So Lucian's love interest that was a vampire. And anyway, she played that. She's great in that. She's a fantastic actress and she's gorgeous. So you know, I'm on board with that. So yeah, so she was in the prequel for that. Kind of a prequel. It was set in the past. So, but anyway. Robert Nepper, who played Simeon, who was Teabag in Escape, that Escape series, Prison Break. He's been in so much sci-fi as well over the years. He's a fantastic actor.
He was great for just the few episodes. That happened. Oh, that happened season 2 as well. Because Lucian.
So what actually happened in season 1?
It was.
I can't remember.
Well, that's why you probably find it so boring and slow, is because it's setting up everything. It takes its time.
22 episodes setting stuff up. It's 6 months of television to set stuff up. Do we not think that maybe that's the problem? What happened in the first series? How did the first season end?
It was the how they I guess that was it right when they figured out Telford was a mole or a rat kind of, or
right. So then that goes straight into the Lucian Alliance early in the second season. Then.
Okay, so my mindset's a little different on this because I grew up with Ahsoka Tano in the Clone Wars, and yes, it's animated, but Ahsoka's maybe my second or third favorite Star Wars character in general, just because at this point I've had 7 years plus Rebels, so essentially 3 or 4 extra years on top of that, 11 years of television right there, plus now we've got a little. There's a great Ahsoka novel, but now we got live action Ahsoka too. She started off as the most annoying, abrasive, god awful character that you ever have seen. And they take her on a journey specifically, like making you hate her at first to make her that much better whenever she actually kind of becomes a fully realized person. I think Chloe and TJ are good examples of that, because by season 2, TJ and Varro, that's one of my favorite little storylines in there. Chloe with all of her math stuff, the alien stuff, like that would have come into play later. I think those are 2 of the best characters in the second season, but they had to be like that in the first season. Part of that was, now you can kind of do that with most characters. Back then, it was mostly female characters that was kind of delegated to. And if I'm giving the Star Wars example, they did the same thing with Ezra Bridger and Star Wars Rebels later on. And then that was allowing Ahsoka to kind of be a teacher at times, allowed Kanan Jarrus, the other Jedi guy, to be a teacher. They were able to do that, I think, with that series in a much smaller amount of time, where that took maybe 2 or 3 seasons to really get like Ahsoka down. Season 2, I thought both those characters were great. It just took a little hampering to get there, you know?
Yeah, but it shouldn't take a full. Well, we shouldn't really sit here now talking about 2 seasons of Stargate SGU and go, what happened in the first season? And you watched a couple of months ago, and I'm not putting you on the stop here, but you can't tell me what happened.
Well,
because it was boring.
Not because it's boring, because it plays together in a certain way. I think it plays out exactly how it's written. I don't know. You know, I wouldn't necessarily. It might be boring to some, of course, but it is very I think it was portrayed and depicted exactly how it was written. It feels like there shouldn't be a gap there. So that's part of why I don't think that it's like, it's not where like we end season 3 of this or end season 2 of this. There is that continuous story which we continue, and I think that's better than, okay, well, there was this big break and then like they picked up 2 months later and they found all this fruit on this one world and they've been living off fruit for the last 2 months and now we're back with the crew of the Destiny. No, I like that it was continuous and it feels more. It feels less episodic and more like a film in that way, which I like.
Yeah. So the Lucian line stuff came in towards the end of season 1, like Stephanie says, and then that sounds right to me. The thing, right? So a little while ago, I did a video because a lot of people were coming on and saying, "Look," I started a bit of an argument about SGU, and I said, "Look, it's my least favorite out of the 3, and I found it boring." So I thought, right, I'm going to go back and I'm going to watch the first 3 episodes, and the first 2 episodes are stunning. They're exciting. They're action packed. There's story. There's confrontation. There's everything. But it's a 3-parter basically. The opening 3 parts. The 3rd part, when they're walking through the desert for 90% of the episode, is boring. And for me, that's how they carried on then for the next about 15 episodes. Whereas really, they were exploring the Destiny. Okay, fine. They thought, oh, look, we found a shuttle. Fine. Oh, look, bloody Rush has been hiding something else, the Tinker. And that's how it went on for 3 months of my life.
Okay, binging after the fact is a lot different, of course. But during that time, I'd argue that going on that planet like that was bringing it back to core Stargate. Were you so excited about the differences that whenever it went back to its normality that it just didn't feel succinct enough?
No, it was just boring. They didn't do anything. They were there to look for something they needed. Was it for the air scrubbers or something? I forget. It was only a couple of months ago. I saw it needed something from the
air
planet.
scrubbers was later, but it was something. I think it was water. It was water. They were looking for water at the time.
Was it just water? So they're searching, they're looking, the thing, and the one bit in that episode I really did like was something with Eli. And he sort of went, you've destroyed it. And did like a Planet of the Apes line. And, you know, I really did like that. I thought that was quite funny.
The Charlton Heston quotes were great.
Yeah. But other than that, it's a very, very forgettable episode. I mean, I know there's a bit that the Greer steps up in that episode, and we see him actually that he's a more complicated character than we first thought. I like that. We really start to see that Rush in that episode is not to be trusted, and Young and Rush really bang heads on that one, where we genuinely think Rush is going to, or Young is going to kill Rush at some point. That's when we first started thinking Young at some point is going to put a bullet in this man's head, and you know, and that was the big driving force for a lot of the first season. Was at what point is Young going to kill Rush, because it's going to happen at some point, and he beats the crap out of him a couple of times. But to me, that was pretty much, it was about characters and it was about the tension and it was the claustrophobia, but that was about it until the Lucian Alliance storyline.
Well, don't forget, that was the first episode we had an alien. It was the reason they survived. And then, it was a lot of it. It was all the little tiny bugs and insects and stuff. Yeah. But they were the reason they survived, and that, I guess, introduced a new aspect of the show, similar to the other ones, of course, but it threw a wrench in their plans. So there's always, I guess, more to the thing. Like I mean, we're all remembering it from the past. Even me just watching it a month ago, you know, enough has gone by, you know, where I've watched half a dozen freaking things since then, where my brain's more on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I like that it's still like you just said. Those were all really great points. It might have been a little bit more boring of an episode comparative to the first 2, but those were a lot of really good things that typically make up a good episode. Part of I think our expectations is what hurts SGU in a lot of ways. But then subverting them is what does so well with it, I think, at the same time.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Right. It coming back So an SGU conclusion. That's what a lot of people go on about. Now, I'm just going to say that the Babylon 5 has been talked about in the comments a little bit. It didn't take Babylon 5 20 episodes to get you hooked. SGU1, SGA. It's well written. I remember more. Yeah, exactly. It didn't. They were much quicker. Babylon 5, though, the first season of Babylon 5, you don't have to watch it. If you decide to watch Babylon 5, mate, you could skip the first season pretty much. The guy that played Sinclair sadly got really poorly. He wasn't well. So they swapped him. And we got Sheridan, who plays by Bruce Broxlender. Bruce Broxlender.
Bruce Banner.
Bruce Banner. He played by the Incredible Hulk.
Luke Rigg.
Broxletner. Leitner. The guy from Tron. So, and for me, that's when the show really kicked off. It got loads better, but I really liked the guy from Tron. Because I thought he's just one of those actors. Like I loved him in The Scarecrow, Mrs. King before that, and I just thought he was great in it.
Bruce Boxleitner.
That'll do. Boxleitner. The guy from Tron. But you do have to watch the first series because then actually the whole thing with Sinclair does become important. You want other blood to talk about, but anyway.
It's more contextual than it is like story driven in a way.
Yeah, no, there's a big part of the story with Babylon 4 that's to do with Sheridan, to do with Sinclair. So if you don't watch the first season, when he does come back, when he's well enough, you won't know the bloody hell's going on. But anyway, my point is that we're about to get a Babylon 5 animated movie.
Oh, I know where this is going now.
So we think, and this is just a think, this is me cutting 2 and 2 together, and I may be getting 6, but I may be getting 4. We don't know. But we think possibly Warner Brothers is going to be the studio partner for Amazon, and that they'll be making a few things together, potentially. RoboCop and whatever might also be part of this. I'm hearing more and more whispers from the people I speak to that Amazon really want to sign a multi-project deal with one of these big studios, and you really have a partner for the next decade of projects. So that means that Stargate might be made by Warner Brothers. That's the video I did a couple of days ago. I'm going to talk about it.
I remember that. Mm-hmm.
One of the things that Warner Brothers does well is the animated movies, right? And Babylon 5 is going to come back with them. Now, they can't do a Babylon 5 live action episode because a lot of the actors that appeared in Babylon 5 have sadly passed away. So a lot of the actors are now gone. Delenn, the actress that played Delenn, is a major character in Babylon 5. So you cannot have, and if nothing else, they're all 20 years older as well. Even the actors that have survived are much, much older. Right? We've got a similar problem with SGU, that there's been a big gap. So if we got a conclusion to SGU, if it was an animated movie and that was the only way it could be done, would that be the worst thing in the world?
Oh.
We could get all the actors back. Any actors that have passed away or that are unavailable could be done by somebody else. They could get somebody to come in and do the voice. The age thing doesn't matter. It would be much, much cheaper because one of the things I keep saying about SGU is it wasn't as popular as SG1 and SGA. So if they're going to invest a big money into doing this, and this is me thinking very practically, it's not what I want. It's me thinking practically. It would be much, much cheaper to do an animated movie than it would be to do a live action movie or something else, and a lot less risk, if you know what I mean. Is that the way to do it? Is it the only way we could get a conclusion to SGU?
I actually don't think that would not be a risk. I think that'd be the most risky thing they could ever do, and I think that would. Sorry, Kevin, I would hate that. Actually, I would love a Stargate animated series. Maybe if that's the series that we get while they're making live action films for a little bit. That might be the thing.
I'm not saying it. This is as well as all the other things. When I said this, okay. I got a load of comments of people saying animation, and like, no, I want live action. I'm saying no, live action as well. This is as well. Yes,
but I don't think SGU is a good spot for like we were talking about the other day. I think if Stargate's going to do a movie, it needs to involve SGU. SGU is the only one that's legitimately primed for a film, and that's because of the way the television show was. Like we struggled for a second figuring out where season 1 and 2 happened because it's still one continuous story compared where like we end here, we pick up here, we end here, we pick up here. It feels, and I think the acting's just fine in SG1 and SGA, but the actors and the acting in that show are, just because of the type of show it is, leaps and bounds better than what we get in SG1 and SGA. It's not as fun, of course. It's not as like jovial, but by technicality, the SGU does truly have like the higher class of acting, not necessarily actors, but acting. It's the only thing prime for a movie. I think, and I'll be in the minority for this because obviously we're all Stargate fans. We just want it back, and if we can have our SG1 and SGA members back, we want them, and I do too. But I argue, just coming from the film mind that I have, being in LA, et cetera, what happened to Destiny? It flew into a star. If they fly into a star, they're better off. What do you mean?
They were stuck between two galaxies. Unless it's a rogue star in the middle, that's not going to happen. So, Mike.
Yeah, true.
Nowhere near a star. They go back to type space. Yeah. SGU, the full Monty. Not very good.
I just feel like SGU is the only one legitimately primed for a movie, and just trying to be objective, trying to look at it because I live out in Hollywood and BS, yada, yada. So knowing just the people and the type of people that live out here and make the decisions that they do. My mentor that convinced me to move out here, that's playwright, and I'm producing plays for him right now. His wife ran Liv and Maddie on Disney Channel, the #1 Disney show for a decade. So I get to talk with them and kind of understand like a producer's mindset every now and then, which hopefully will make me a good producer one day, but just that mindset there. SG1 and SGA, if the actors act like they did in the TV shows in a movie, they're done immediately. Like literally, I as much as I love even the older cast, all of SG1, I would put them all back in acting school prior to getting on a set. Every single one. And I don't mean that in a bad way.
That's not 100% unfair. A movie is. I agree with you in one way that a movie is very different to a TV series,
and the importance of it.
Acting is different, but they have a lot more time to get scenes right in a movie than they do in a series.
It depends how long they allocate.
Read the script. In a movie, it's. I want me to, have a bit of an inflection. I mean, look at Star Trek: The Next Generation, when that stepped up to a movie, it worked.
Yes and no on that, because you have more time to focus on the things that you really want, but on a film set, you are liable to get your sides like the day of. Like you might have TV, you have much longer rehearsal time because you have this allocated time. Movies, you don't.
When they were doing, not like when they were, no, sorry, I hate to disagree with you, but on this one, just like your greatest sci-fi TV show ever, you're wrong. They sometimes they would get the script the day before, and they would pick. I'm talking about when they were doing 22 episodes in a, doing 16-hour days.
Yeah,
they would get their pages the day before, and they were expected to do it the next day.
Well, same thing with film. Very same thing with film.
Get a bit longer with film. A proper cinematic, with the, don't get me wrong. I'm sure there are films that it is like seat of your pants.
The best example is Iron Man. Iron Man, they were writing like the hour prior to. Like they had to like keep going back and stuff. They were the writer, old Mark Fergus or whatever. Was it Mark Fergus? Right?
Yeah.
He did not write that movie. I know he's credited as it, and I do like the guy for a lot of the things he's done, but he did not write that movie. Jon Favreau wrote that movie, and Kevin Feige did. It was Feige and Favreau that should have been the writers on that because they were rewriting it literally on the hour.
I mean, I think. I've read those stories, but Mark Fergus was on set as well, and they kept throwing ideas at him, and he was kept constantly rewriting. So Mark Fergus did write it and did all the.
Okay, good. I didn't know that part.
You're right. Kevin Feige and Jon Favreau were there throwing stuff at him constantly, and they were constantly rewriting. Thank you so much, William, for your contribution. What intrigued me about SGU is Rush seems to be more driven about finding the meaning of life in the universe than SG1 or SGA character. Rush was driven to the point of being psychotic.
I think Rush is my favorite Stargate character.
Oh, well, that's the next 20 minutes of our lives sorted. Explain that one over Richard Dean Anderson's Colonel O'Neill 2Ls or Teal'c. Or
as much as I love them, they're just going through the motions. I love all those characters so much. I adore those characters, but they're just going through the motions. Rush immediately fit into this universe that I was 15 years of the making. It's this beautiful, great universe that was put together. And then not only did he fit into it, he gave it purpose, and not just purpose for himself, purpose for not just the Destiny crew, purpose for the SGC. And then, of course, he throws some hampers in there, not necessarily him, but the Lucian Alliance just being there and taking part in certain things adds to the storyline of what's going on. But Rush is a Gould looking for ultimate power. That would be funny. But he's very like, just he's. I don't even know how to say it correctly. Like he's Rush. Is Robert? It's the only thing that Robert Carlyle could do. He's great.
Yeah, thinking about it. No, of course not. It's all opinion. We all have a right to our own opinion. It's just
now I can find my way back in too.
Yeah, but he's just wrong. I did like how the reason I like Rush's character, and I did like Rush's character, was that there was lots of different aspects going on with him. He was a three-dimensional character. The acting obviously was excellent. Robert Carlyle is a hell of an actor. And yeah, there's a lot going on there. He's not my favorite character in Stargate by a long way. He's not even my favorite character in SGU. Probably Eli was. I'm going to go with Eli. Actually, there's a lot of very dislikable characters in SGU. I didn't like Young. I didn't like Telford at times. I didn't like Rush at times, but you're not supposed to.
Yeah,
I liked Eli. Eli is he was there to be likable. That was his point. You're supposed to like him. That's why the end of SGU is so heartbreaking, because you like him, and he's sacrificing himself in some ways.
It was great. Imperfect characters, nowhere near over. Just said, and
true.
I think that's what made. Where I know I pissed off a couple of people by saying everybody else was going through the motions. Yes, Teal'c did fight his own god, but he fought his own god on everybody else's time. Not on his time, on everybody else's time. That he's going through the motions by definition. I love it, but he's going through the motions. It's not like I'm getting a task force and going to take down.
We could do an entire video talking about the inconsistencies with Teal'c's character, and how he sort of like we got to season. Was it? I was halfway through season 1, or might have been 2. When we suddenly find out he's got a wife and a kid, and we're like,
"Yeah,
well, what? You left?
Like that wasn't important. Whenever you just like hopped off this thing and just started an entire like rebel, like it's
that was inconsistent with what
and it's the same thing with all the main characters. I think the two most consistent like main characters. Actually, 3, because John Shepard would be consistent, but I think it would be Shepard, Rodney, and Sam are the 3 most consistent characters throughout their like longevity of Stargate. And honestly, after that would be like
O'Neill was pretty consistent. Daniel was pretty consistent.
Not really. They yes, and like they grew as people and they grew in their closeness towards each other. But they were consistent in growth, yes, but they weren't like, I guess, the same characters from the beginning to the end, which is good. You don't want them to necessarily be the same characters. Where I think Carter, Shepard, and Rodney are probably still the same characters from beginning to end, and Hammond fits in that too.
There it is.
Hammond's great. He's Texan, so
Hammond of Texas. That's one of the reasons why that I'm talking about. If they do an animated movie.
But he's already dead in Universe. They make the comment in SGA.
But that's just to round off that animated thing, because we wandered off on something.
Yeah.
Animated movie thing. I'd like to see it, because we could have an actual SG1 episode set 20 years ago, sort of thing, you know, set within the SG1 series. We can get that sort of thing with animated that we can't get with live action.
Totally.
We could get something with Hammond in. We could get something with we could get something where we see Hammond die. If the family agreed, the family of the actual actor would have to agree, that sort of thing. But we could get something like that. We could get episodes that we can't get through live action. That's my point with the animated, which is why Warner Brothers are the partner. That does open some possibilities. I don't want to see another animated cartoon kids show for Stargate. No.
I wouldn't even want it in the vein of Star Trek. Like I don't think comedy's the right route, and I think Clone Wars and Rebels is a good basis for like the story arcs. I don't think the childlike aspect should be mimicked or encouraged.
One of the things that Giant Freaking Robot got slammed for a lot was they've released a story about 2 years ago saying that basically MGM were going to do a live action in an animated series, and that I found out since that actually was true. They didn't think with Giant Freaking Robot as normal. They were 6 months behind truth, and it had already come out. Something. But the new chief executive of MGM came in, Michael Wright, and he basically went, look, our MGM, the reason why MGM wanted to do it was because they wanted to try and get the animated studios back up and running. So they thought we need projects for the animation studios. And one of them says, well, we'll do a live action Stargate and we'll follow it up and look how well Lower Decks is doing. And that was the argument. So they were seriously thinking about doing it. Luckily, Amazon Michael Wright came in and went, our animation studios, crap, what are you talking about? Let's just focus on something we can do. We can do a Stargate live action series. Let's get Brad Wright in. Let's do some, and that's turned into that plan. The thing is, though, if they Warner Brothers do it, we're going to get the live action series. We're going to get the movies, but we could also get some animated projects that just can't be done with live action. And they shouldn't do anything they could do live action. If they could do it live action, they should just do it live action. But if there is a story or something that we can't do live action, and I'm thinking a conclusion to SGU is possibly one of those, let's get an animated movie as well. Something along the lines of what Babylon 5 is doing now, which is made by Warner Brothers. You know, we're getting an episode which is not physically possible to do it in live action. An animated movie. I'm doing a video about this tomorrow, so I'm completely ruining the video I'm going to argue.
Stargate Animaniacs. Yeah, I mean, shoot.
Animaniacs. Hello, nurse. Hello, nurse. I just love that cartoon. And a nurse with long legs who walk past the screen. The Animaniacs was ace. But, you know, I honestly think there's a lot of, like, stories they could tell from SG1 or SGA to fill in the blanks type of thing. I just think it could be
a mini series like that or something like or along those lines would be cool. I love the animation idea. I think they'd have to go in it had to be an adult animation in the sense of like Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal or his new series Unicorn Warriors Eternal, which just kind of sounds funny, but it is an adult animated series. But it's not adult in like a crass kind of way. It's not adult in like some like we're gonna go super dark and just beat everybody and gonna be some bloody anime or something. Like, I mean, I wouldn't be super opposed if it was an anime type of style Stargate, honestly. But it needs to be somewhere between TV 14 and TV mature. I feel like I don't like the idea of an SGU animated finish up.
Well, it's like you said, would the actors want to return for animation? I would argue no, maybe they would, because it's a paycheck and they go in for about 3 days and it's done.
And at least that would at least open the door for live action returns as well.
That's one option as well. You can do something that concludes it, that brings everyone home, and then all of a sudden Rush and whatever can appear in the live action stuff, because it could be set 8 years ago. The animated movie could be set not long
at any point.
And
we could
bring through. Make it canon is the point. Make it canon.
I'll caveat everything right there. Screw. I still don't like the idea of a movie. I had to laugh. Sorry, I laughed in the middle of everything you were saying. Matt said Danime Jackson in there, and I cried. That was great. That was, oh, what was I just about to say? Completely forgot. Nope. It was there for a second. Talk about ADD. That's it. I'm on it now. Animation wise, that's funny though.
What are we going to do today, Harris? We're going to do the same as we do every day. We're going to take over the world.
But of course, through Stargates, of course.
Through Stargate.
I would not mind. I would not like an SGU animated film. I don't want that. I just think that almost just puts a hamper on everything. I don't know. I feel like that would be just as detrimental as like, oh, that could be good. You know, I feel like it could be just as bad if not like really just put a hamper on Stargate coming back. You know, because that's an event, and we need those. We need a film. If we're gonna get a film, we need an event, and that would be the type of thing to do that.
Yeah, the animated movie. If they did an animation, it cannot be what kickstarts this franchise.
But what if they did an animated like you just said? And what if they did an animated Stargate Universe, but were able to fill in the gaps of the last 10, 15 years? And that might show, okay, well, now these actors got out then. These actors might be available now for live action, so we can kind of work that series around how we want to. Yeah. It would be a way for them all to age, and everybody pops out at their current age. I mean, Ming-Na Wen still looks like Ming-Na from back then, so yes. she could still be in the stasis.
I suspect she might be a vampire.
Oh yeah, her and Paul Rudd are vampires.
Sort of evil thing. I mean, God, don't she looks beautiful. She's not changing people. She's at all. She's like that. Was it Dorian Gray from the?
Yeah, she's straight up the picture of Dorian Gray. Just
there's a painting of her somewhere that's really elderly. She's amazing. It's just gorgeous. But
Mulan will never die. Darth Eli.
She must have her own stasis pod, is what we're saying. But yeah, Ming-Na Wen could come back and still play the same character, exactly the same, and it wouldn't be an issue at all. But the rest of them can't. David Blue could. He's just got skinnier, and I would just say, well, yeah, because there's not enough food. Done.
Yeah, that might work.
Yeah.
Ozark. That's a question for another.
They could use animated movies if they do it cleverly in lots of ways to tell the story that then leads into other things. But I'm going to go back to that main point I'm saying though. They can't do projects with animation that they could do live action. If they could do it live action, they should do it live action.
Yes.
But there are things they can't do with live action that they could do with animated.
Would an SGU fill in the gap series work?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I feel like that's the type of thing. Like
these animated movies, they can be done really fast. We could go from announcing it to 6 months, and it could be it could be DVD sales. Boom. Babylon 5, they were doing the voices just before Christmas, and it's out in July.
That turnover's great.
A movie will take at least 2 years. An animated movie, 8 or 9 months, because they're using the same stuff that Warner Brothers are using for lots and lots of other projects. It'll be exactly the same technology. A lot of it's
if it's Warner Brothers, yes. Because Amazon's taken a long time with just animated movies. Amazon themselves have taken a long time. Like War of the Rohirrim for Lord of the Rings, they've been working on that for like 3 years, 4 years now.
Who's producing that for them?
I want to say New Line's part of it, but I'm not positive. If New Line is part of it, that keeps me very happy because New Line is who I think should have Lord of the Rings most of the time.
Yeah, they're generally doing a good job of that. But that's the problem is that she's come up with the Lord of the Rings cartoon from Thingy, the 1978 movie. I can't remember what it's damn called.
Ancients Building Atlantis and Destiny would also be a great one.
Yeah, Blue Line Cinema and Warner Brothers Animation.
Yeah?
New Line Cinemas, Warner Brothers Animation, and Solar Entertainment, and it will be distributed by Warner Brothers pictures. To me, mate, that's just another nail in the thing that it's going to be Warner Brothers that are going to be making this show.
I'm with you. That was like my last question, I guess, that would like mentally hold me back from thinking that. But now I'm like, I'm on the bandwagon.
On this one, I will be stunned. I keep getting mate. Every time I do a video that does well, I get a load of comments saying, "You haven't got any sources, you're talking shit." I've had a couple of people tell me this is a possibility, but a couple of people that work in the industry saying, "Look at all the deals. We don't know what's going on," because the thing is as well, and I should have said this in the video the other day when I talked about Warner Brothers. The reason why, if this is true, that it will be a dead secret until it gets announced, is because this will massively affect Amazon's stock price, and it will massively affect Warner Brothers' stock price. And they are not allowed to leak stuff about this because they can get done for like stock price manipulation. Yeah. So whenever there's a massive deal like this, it is kept very hush-hush, and they take it serious. They like leaks about Stargate. I know for a fact that I've been told stuff that has been authorized by Amazon, that Amazon have told people that they can talk about it. And leaks to Deadline, leaks to me, leaks to other places. And that's truth for lots of projects over the years. That's not special. The big production, they like stuff to get out there. Stuff like this, though, they don't, and they take it seriously. And if Amazon are about to sign what will be $1 billion project with Warner Brothers, a deal with Warner Brothers to say that we are going to be cinema partners for the next 10 years, you can see Warner Brothers stock price will go whoop.
Oh yeah.
And they cannot let it leak. They can't. So I'm getting people talk to me saying, watch this. It's Warner Brothers. Initially, people would talk to me. I got told a while ago, so look at Sony, because if it really is Penguin and the Parker, it'll be Sony. And that's not them basing on something. Then they're just saying, look, 2 and 2 together. Look, guys, this makes sense. This is people that work in the industry that said this makes sense. Watch this. Everybody for the last 6 months has said to me, Warner Brothers.
So if we go Warner Bros, that means no Penguin and the Parker?
Maybe.
Most likely, at least.
My worry is genuinely, and this is not me trying to scaremonger anyone, but Bad Robot pitched twice for Stargate. We know they did. Jenny Stiven has told us, has confirmed that they confirmed twice, right? They pitched a movie. We got to glimpse that movie because I can say this now because they don't work there anymore and it's safe. I actually spoke to somebody that when they did the pitch, they put these packs together and they distribute it to like executives and things. I know that I spoke to the person that printed them. So that actually physically put them together, right? That's what all my sources. They're never anybody high up. They're always like janitors and shit. But anyway,
don't tell them.
But I can say that now because they don't work there anymore, and they don't talk to me anymore either. So because they work in they left the industry completely. They do something completely different now.
Okay. I was like, don't give them away.
This person actually put it together. Now their pitch was. And like I say, and we knew this is the whole thing about Ra coming back and blah, blah, blah. It was blown out of the water, right? I got called a liar then because I was saying it's going to be a movie first. And I got called a liar by a bunch of people. I'm like, no, shock. It's going to be a movie.
Yeah.
But anyway, but I know they pitched again in about August, right? But we don't know what that pitch was. We don't know what happened with that one because unfortunately my source had moved on by then. But
and we know Fergus was at least talking in December.
We know Fergus was talking at that point, but it fell down about Christmas. Then my problem is Bad Robot has an exclusive deal with Warner Brothers. They're not allowed to make
another year, right?
It's at least another year. It's at least till but there's already talk about it potentially being renewed. A year ago, they were talking about suing them, right? Warner Brothers was generally talking about suing Bad Robot because they'd made nothing.
Yeah. I'm just contracted to nothing.
Yeah. They're 500, partly because of COVID, partly because of other things, but they just made nothing. Now there's talk about it being renewed, right? What is that conversation about renewing it being based on? Is it being based on the fact that Bad Robot have got the Stargate franchise? And now I don't know that. That's what I'm concerned about. I'm worried about. What on earth are Warner Brothers talking to Bad Robot about? What other project are Bad Robot doing? I know they're involved in a couple of movies, but apparently their involvement is minor. There is a couple of sci-fi movies coming up that Bad Robot are going to be producing for Warner Brothers, in cooperation with a couple of other people. But what an exclusivity deal with Warner Brothers though? What the hell are they signing? So my fear is they pitched once, it got batted back. They pitched again, basically because Warner Brothers told them to. It makes sense. And maybe Bad Robot were successful. And don't forget, Bad Robot could work in conjunction with Penguin and Parker. They could, because Penguin and Parker might just do the development work. They'll still be. Look at how many production companies were involved with The Expanse. It's about 5. It's possible.
I want to throw up.
So I honestly think this is a risk. I actually like the idea of Warner Brothers being involved in this. I think it gives MGM lots of options, and MGM has a good working relationship with Warner Brothers already. Like I say, I keep talking about the Creed trilogy, but there's loads of other projects as well. But the Creed trilogy was done in cooperation with Warner Brothers. I just think the relationship's there. I think they've got the studio space, they've got the expertise. It gives them other options like the animated stuff. My fear is Bad Robot. But Bad Robot have done some good stuff. They have done some good stuff. They've also, though, done some utter shit.
Any of the good stuff they've diluted further on, which is the bad thing. None of their stuff stays good. Like, they might have a decent... That's the thing. I can't stand the fact that Bad Reboot decides to do sci-fi all the freaking time. They don't like sci-fi. There's nothing about them that likes sci-fi. They like taking proven good science fiction and turning it into popcorn.
Yep.
Fuck off. Sorry, but like I care about what they're doing.
Do the other Star Trek project. J.B. Abrams will be producer, but it cannot be Bad Robot because Bad Robot only works with Warner Brothers for the next 18 months. So it can't be. That was going to be a different production company. It was going to be I forget the name of it now, but and it was probably going to do through Secret Hideout, but J.J. Abrams was going to be a producer. So it's not Bad Robot for Star Trek. Okay.
So the only other thing that I was trying to hold back like a hairball popping out from all the Bad Robot talk there. It could be because Paramount in like literally just the first quarter of this last year lost $1.23 billion, and they're losing a lot more. And Paramount Plus is not successful, and they very well might start handing out their stuff. Do you think Bad Robot has just redone their Star Trek stuff, and now Paramount's bringing it on to Warner Brothers? Maybe they're releasing their like grasp on it.
I do think at the moment there's the Star Trek stuff is a bit complicated because there are obviously at the moment it's with Secret Hideout, which is Alex Kurtzman. There was a lot of conversation about 6 months ago that a lot of people at Paramount are not massively happy with what's going on with Star Trek, and that makes sense because the we're very divided about what's going on with Star Trek. Trekkies are like, I wouldn't even say it's half and half. People really hate New Trek. There are people that hate it. And there's people that do, and obviously producers and executives look at that and they go, you know what are we doing wrong?
What are we supposed to do? Yeah.
And they look at Alex Kurtzman sometimes, and I know there are people because I spoke to one that actually does work at Paramount, and he said, look, there are people here that want Secret Hideout gone, but we've got a contract with him, and it would be expensive to get rid of him, and that's the only reason he's hanging on. And then Picard season 3 came along. Strange New Worlds did well. And that got him a bit of time, but Picard season 3 was actually hugely popular, and that has given basically Kurtzman the opportunity to do a Section 31 movie and to do this Phase 2 thing. So at the moment, Alex Kurtzman is safe.
Okay,
but it's safe with there's a lot. He has enemies at Paramount.
Is it an exclusivity deal? Do you know?
They have an exclusivity deal.
Okay.
In Secret Hideout and Paramount. So, but that ends. I think that ends next year as well. But there was a lot of rumors that actually they might pull Star Trek away from Secret Hideout because they're not happy about the way this, and that is still a risk. But Picard season 3 saved them. It gave them a lot of time. So I don't think Bad Robot's going to be getting involved in Star Trek because I don't think they're going to move it away from Secret Hideout just yet. But Paramount is losing money hand over. They have got They have actually got a lot of their net debt down. Their net debt is decreasing, so they are heading the right way. But Paramount Plus has not gone well, and it's expensive.
Very.
The last season of Strange New Worlds cost $90 million to produce.
Ooh, and that's not even talking about like I don't know the type of money they're spending on like Tulsa King or Mayor of Easttown or these smaller series that are amazing. I still haven't watched them. I need to, but are supposed to be amazing.
Expensive, yeah.
But yeah, they're not cheap. And then they also are doing like Halo. Halo's not cheap. It ain't cheap at all.
No, they were spending a lot of money, but they are forcing the Paramount guy, and I mean David Zaslav said the same thing. He says 2023 is going to see that's the peak of spending on streaming. From now on, it's going to be a downward trend where they're going to be spending a lot less money, which we're already seeing. The Star Wars calendar's being stretched out. Star Trek calendar was stretched out as well, and they pushed Discovery back because they wanted to push everything else back. So I mean, and we're seeing that with Marvel as well. They're pushing it all back. The spending is going to be decreasing over the next 5 years.
Yeah. Zaslav and Iger have been axing and cutting and slowing things down.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't really axed.
So Arnold says, I'm pretty sure there is a second season of Halo, isn't it? Late this year.
They announced the second season before the first season, or before the first season aired. They're like, we're renewing it, but because we already have a bad reception on what's going on here, it's a whole new showrunner, and it might be 2 new showrunners. And
Almost Human was brilliant. Oh, I can't show it. Stop doing that stupid series with stupid computer. I'm right clicking. Almost Human was a brilliant season. I love that. It got cancelled about halfway through, and that was Carl Urban, and I forgot the guy's name who played the robot, but it was a brilliant season. If you ever get back and watch it, I don't think we got 8 episodes in the end, but it was or something like that. But Paramount is not stable. It's not stable. Its credit people said it's B listed at the moment, which means it's stable from a financial point of view, but with massive issues.
Mm-hmm. Like it would not be surprising within 2 years if we did not have Paramount Plus, and that might be quicker than that, honestly.
For me, there's going to be over the next 2 or 3 years. I think we're going to get some big shock announcements that certain of these channels are going to be merging together, and I actually think Netflix is going to be the one that absorbs something like Paramount Plus, and they'll just because Netflix is dying for like that. And I mean, if you think about Paramount's IP under a Netflix property, it would kill. Let's see what happens. But anyway, go on,
I don't know. No. This could be a whole different conversation and topic. We don't have to dive too far, but Netflix alone, I feel like, has to, like, I mean, we're talking about all these different streaming things going down and joining other things, but I mean, Netflix is just strictly streaming. I mean, it's not strictly streaming, but it's just next door to strictly streaming. I don't feel like Netflix is going to last that much longer if it keeps doing things the way it's doing.
There is significant debt, but they continue to increase. They got a bit scared for a second, didn't they, when there was a decrease in their viewers, but then it bounced back immediately. And then apparently the protocols have been put in place to stop people sharing passwords has gone very well. So Netflix, even though they have significant debt, they're still the number one. Disney have not been able to overtake them. And I think they're having a second wind, personally. But guys, we've had a brilliant episode. I'm afraid I've got to go because I promised the wife that we would have a nice meal this evening, and I promised I'd be done by 6:30. And I need a wee, which is always the way we end these episodes. But before we go, have we settled the argument? Was SGU brilliant, or was it boring as hell?
Well, the last comment we had about SGU was SGU is the best Stargate series of the whole franchise, and also on my all-time favorite sci-fi series shows ever made.
Yeah.
I don't think that encapsulates what we talked about, but I like that that's the last thing we got. Underrated or brilliant? Yes, it was brilliant.
Yeah, there you go. I am going to say it was boring, but it was getting better. And that's basically a comment that we had before we even started the stream, saying, argument over, done. And actually, he was right. And it was like most big sci-fi seasons, the first season struggled. It was finding its feet. And if MGM hadn't have gone under, we'd have got 7 seasons of it.
Would you say it was boringly brilliant?
Nope. It was boring and it was getting better. But it was boring.
I'd say it was brilliant.
There's a slow burn and there's a slow burn. That was a smolder, but the smolder went on for a year. It was there are higher fires that have bloody burn longer.
That's how I know you're not a big slow burn guy. You watch the movie First Cow and then come back to me.
Okay.
I love that movie, and then I showed it to my family.
Like slow burn stuff. I find it boring.
Never again.
But anyway, I'm an explosions, popcorn in face. Something.
They're fun.
Right. You can notice I'm talking really quickly. I'm talking really quickly because I'm going to wet myself. So, guys, thank you so much for getting into the comments. You've been amazing as always. We've had 70, 80, 90 people watching for all the video. Fantastic. Thank you so much. As always, you are the reasons why we do this. So you're absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. Harris, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And we will be back next week with some other marvelous episode, probably talking about Stargate again, because that's all we seem to talk about at the moment. So hopefully with some news. Guys, see you soon. Bye.
See y'all.